let's talk our unique segments of the week, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, so originally I wanted to do both most overrated and underrated, and then we just had way too many. So this week we're going to do the most overrated wrestlers of all time, in our opinion. Then next week we'll be doing the other side of it and doing the most underrated wrestlers of all time, in our opinion. So I'd like to kick off if I could, Carl. I will need some.
Off?
I'm fucking angry about this first one.
Okay.
Now, this one I'll probably need a bit of help from you because, as a lot of people will know, your wrestling history is much greater than mine. But this guy, from the sort of wrestling knowledge I have of him, yeah, that worked. I think he's overrated to fuck. Now, okay. I'd be interested to know whether you disagree as well. But the person I'm going to list first, Carl, number one, is Hulk Hogan. Now,
okay,
this is purely based on the fact that, okay, he was a megastar. I can't get around the fact he was a megastar. He's doing films, he's doing all sorts like that. But when you hear about the man, like the particular tale you told me last week, where he basically refused to drop the belt to Brett and stuff like that, he seems rather up his own ass. Mm-hmm. For me, the fact that even when he was rocking up on post-invasion with the NWO and all that, he was sort of past it then, but then he was still legitimately squashing people. Even isn't the entire way he conducts in the ring, where suddenly nothing hurts him, pisses me off. It's like, how is no selling a move a thing? How is that a gimmick? And for that, and for many more reasons, he has to be on the list for me, because I just think, what's the deal with Hogan? Why is he such a big deal to people? And I get that he came from a different time, and I'm hoping that's might be where you might be able to help me out. But I can't see it. I can't see why he was such a big deal for everyone. His wrestling moveset wasn't that great, and his whole gimmick was just getting hyped up and not being hurt by the moves that were being sort of pulled anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. He's in a whole different enigma, Hulk Hogan. You know, he arguably is on many people's Mount Rushmore of wrestling because of everything he did for the business. You can talk about WrestleMania. You can say, you know, it's Vince McMahon made wrestling, or some people have the firm belief it was Hulk Hogan that made wrestling into what it was today. Personally, you know, he was a big star. He was a decent promo. You know, the fans wanted to see him. He was a big guy, muscly guy, the underdogs somehow still. But, you know, he was a babyface, and he was probably the quintessential kind of big babyface that everybody rallied behind. But he sucked. He really sucked. He would spend most of his, like, just being worked over and just beat down to the point where you were like, oh, he's going to lose. And then, as you said, he'd Hulk up. He'd, you know, fight off all the things, fucking throw him to the ropes, big boot, leg drop, win every time. Just cookie cutter, like boom, 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 like 2-3 moves.
Yeah,
awful.
And his finisher is weak as fuck as well, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, and I think, you know, exactly, like it's literally just a leg drop. Some, like, most people use that as like fucking just one of their early moves. So, you know, what about his makes it special?
I mean, to be fair, he played a blinder because that's something he'll be able to do now. It's a move he'll never not be able to do, because it's just falling over, right? There's some wrestlers out there who, like, they get to a point when it's like, I can't do a powerbomb anymore. So maybe he's on the right track there, I suppose. But yeah, I needed your input for this one, because for me, I'm just like, I don't get it, but I've only known sort of modern Hulk, and while the NWO stuff was quite compelling because he was always a babyface, in real life he's not a babyface. He seems a bit of an asshole from what I've seen. He just seems to not want to put people over, and you really have to be on sort of Team Hulk to get anywhere when he's around. It's just ridiculous. He can dominate a card. Like, and again, I'm not discrediting the match because I know everyone loved it. It was a good match, the two icons meeting, but like, he dominated WrestleMania because he was back and it was him and The Rock. Do you know what I mean? It's like, for me, I probably wasn't as like hyped up about that as a lot of people, because I you know, The Rock's awesome, but I didn't get the whole Hulk thing anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of them, like, because arguably he, you know, he had two fantastic pivotal moments, like from the 89 to 92, maybe no 92. I'd say he was like super megastar Hulk Hogan. There was then all the steroid scandal. He like went off. He started doing movies. He didn't know what he wanted to be. He started just letting the power get to him, screwing people over, and he became just an absolute jerk. And then he went to WCW, and then he changed the business again because he turned heel and formed the NWO and catapulted WCW. So it's like, holy shit. But he's never changed up his moveset. He's never changed up his shtick, even when he was, Hulk Hogan, the baddie in NWO.
Yeah, it was still Hulk Hogan.
Well, exactly. It was still brother, and it was just instead of like, oh yeah, brothers, take your vitamins, say your prayers. It was brother, we're the NWO, and it's tired, and it's one of them. So I can completely see why you've got him on the list.
It's just a difficult one to put on a list because he's massively compelling. Like you say, he's someone who's not really moved with the times ever, but has changed the face of wrestling twice. Because I'd never really considered it like that did propel WCW. It made them a much bigger contender to WWF at the time. But it's crazy. And like everyone remembers the Andre the Giant match. Everyone remembers him slamming him, the power slam. So it's like, he's definitely been there for some incredibly impactful moments, memorable moments. But I don't know, I just feel like he gets way more hype than he probably deserves.
Yeah. No, I kind of agree, to be fair.
Cool. So, Karl, number 2.
I'll see your Hulk Hogan, and I will raise you the man, Becky Lynch.
Okay.
I'm sure this one. I mean, it might be a surprise to you that I brought her up, but
I do you know what? I'm with you. You're gonna get some grief.
Oh God, yeah, 100% I will. Like, look, for me, you've got to admire the journey Becky's been on. She has tore it up in the Indies. She was in Shimmer. She was, the UK scene, the Ireland scene. She's made her way over. Gone to NXT, had a fucking leprechaun gimmick pretty much, and had a steampunk gimmick.
Classic WWE.
Literally not a hell of a lot of stuff going for her. So the fact is, she got over on her own, and she did kind of have that redemption arc, and how like it's always about Charlotte, it's always about Sasha and stuff, and what about her? And it was great. And if you look at that few weeks from like around the Rumble through to WrestleMania, the program you had with Ronda, it was awesome. And she was the man, and it was cool, and it was like, yeah. And then again, after that, she was just the same old shtick, and it was like you were trying to turn her into a female Austin, and it just failed miserably. And it was she didn't look badass. She just didn't have that anymore. That aura about her. She defeated Ronda Rousey and became this ultimate like fucking hell. Who in the world can defeat Ronda Rousey except for Amanda Nunes and Holly Holm? But regardless,
yeah, and then she left UFC, so maybe countless other people. Who knows?
Well, exactly. But yeah, so I don't know. Like she had everything going for her, but then it was just bland, man. And it was just like you come up at like we always take the piss out of her for that. I'm paying my fine up front. Fucking, the woman bit you.
Do you know what this actually this always comes to my head. Like that they went with this, like I'm paying me fine up front for what I'm going to do to her, right? Credit to the Irish accent, by the way, Karl. I didn't try it, but yours was impeccable. But yeah, we've like a couple of weeks ago had her own husband, like boyfriend. I don't know. Did they get married? Anyway, we had Seth rip out a man's eye. Kayfabe. Like, did he get fined? Well, no, apparently, because it was a stipulation in the match because we booked that kind of shit first. They might as well have done a first fucking bite match between her and Shayna the way they're booking shit lately.
I mean, if she was still around and she hadn't got pregnant, I could see that have happened at Extreme Rules Horror Show, to be fair.
Yeah, possibly. But I think, to be honest, some of the problem might have been WWE because I think that's when it got a bit hokey. I'm sure she has a lot of love for Stone Cold, but I don't think she's gone, I'm going to be Austin, I'm going to be a female Austin. I think WWE have pushed her as a female Austin to try and get a Becky thing going. Like, even the t-shirts they were putting out were kind of similar to the Austin 316 things, do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, the Becky 365 stuff. It
Exactly,
became laughable though. It became like, well, what vehicle is she going to be riding in this week?
Exactly,
You know what I mean?
and then it became very hokey. The biting thing was hokey. she was getting more and more cartoonish, and I think that was the problem. When she busted her nose and was genuinely like, being tough about it and cracking on, people got behind her, and that was an organic moment. And I think creative ruined that. And I totally think she's overrated because of WWE, if you know what I mean. I think they massively overrated her. They didn't let it build properly. They just went, right, we're going to shoot her to the moon. And then we all you and I especially turned around and went, nah, this is stupid.
Yeah. I think for me, like typical WWE, they didn't have anywhere to go with her after that Ronda thing. Like, you can't take anything away from that run she had, and it was fantastic. But then, like, I think back to that scene where they got arrested and they both got put in the fucking police car and just started like fucking kicking shit out of each other in the police car in handcuffs. Like, that was attitude era kind of stuff. I popped for it, man. I thought it was awesome. So all that stuff was great. It was then after that fact, it was, well, what's next for her? And it was just, it was awful by the end. And it became this kind of, as you said, like an organic kind of development of a character to like, okay, she's badass, to, Michael Cole, the man, she's the man. Oh, look, it's Becky Lynch, she's in a truck. Oh, she's on a unicycle. Whatever the fuck she was on every week.
She's driving an ambulance to the hospital for some reason. Like,
exactly.
Like if you were going to the hospital, why not let them drive?
Exactly.
Anyway.
So yeah, it got very stale, very quick, and felt very kind of flat towards the end. So for me, I feel like it's come at a really good time because she was really overrated, in my opinion, by the time she came to, offer her announcement about pregnancy. So for me, Becky Lynch has become overrated. Don't come at me in the comments, y'all.
Oh, they're coming at you, Carl. They're coming for you. all 2 million of them. Oh, yeah. I don't know how many fans she's got. But I'll try and deflect some heat, Carl. You ready? My next one. And it wouldn't be a weekly A to the K podcast without me moaning about Goldberg. So number 3.
Oh, yeah.
3 is Goldberg. Now, I'm sorry, guys. I will stop moaning about it at some point, but he fits so perfectly on this list because even in WCW, let's be honest, the undefeated gimmick was kind of just it not stupid. I get it. I get that you can have an undefeated streak, but that becomes very boring anyway. I honestly don't know how they kept that going that long, and actually people were like so behind it. I don't get it. But certainly the stuff he's done in WWE, he's so up his own ass. He always has that stupid fucking grin on his face that he thinks he's the best thing ever, right? He come back and then I can't remember the deal at the time, but him and Brock ended up sort of both going, "Now we're fucking leaving," and that ended up being the most boring, fucking laboured match we'd ever seen, right? And then he can still exactly, and then he can still come back, and everyone still gets really fucking hyped about him. If you look at the stuff he's done in WWE, why are we even getting hyped? Why are we cheering?
Yeah,
he took Brock Lesnar out, who, I'll be honest with you now, guys, Brock Lesnar's not on this list, but you could make an argument for him being on this list, right? But Brock Lesnar's a legit good wrestler, and he put a lot of time in WWE. He might not be there all the time now, but Goldberg just rocks up, defeats Brock, ruins that run, and that's what he's the fucking ruiner. Let's be honest. He comes in and ruins something good.
I'm not even going to get you started on the Fiend.
I'm avoiding that topic again. Not even talking about the Fiend this time. But I really don't understand why people get so behind Goldberg. He's just a pompous old man.
Yeah, definitely. I think, the whole kind of streak thing in WCW to start off, and, it did build a lot of momentum. And when he beat Hogan for the belt, it was, and I feel like they booked it well because they had him win the United States Championship, and then he was still that champion because he was undefeated. And then he won the main one. He was both champs. And it was a really awesome build. He also fucking ended Bret Hart's career because he can't fucking go in the ring. So big fuck you for that.
That's a fucking good point, though.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Right?
You know what, Goldberg? He was actually a good wrestler.
Well, exactly, right? A guy who was never fucking injured anybody his whole life. Then you've got an absolute fucking fool like Goldberg just throwing axe kicks and fucking not showing any common courtesy or regard for the people he's in there with. But, that happens. And then, when WWE buys WCW, when it was fucking on its arse, he decided to sit at home and just have his little contract and, imagine,
get his payday.
If he would have had any pride, and you can say the same about Hogan and the rest of the guys, they just would rather be paid to sit at home and do fuck all. Like, if how good could the invasion have been if they just weren't a bunch of bastards?
Do you know what? You make a good point there, because like I always look at it like, oh, why didn't Vince just buy them? Why didn't he just throw the money at them to get them to come? But at the same time, why should he fucking have to? They're meant to love the business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have all that, and then he comes back for a very lackluster run in WWE, fucks off again, and then he comes back as Goldberg. He's doing it for his kid, so his kid can see him wrestle. I was like, okay, cool, but you're boring. And he's still a psychopath. He's still knocking himself out before the matches because he's headbutting doors.
Well, I didn't watch the Saudi stuff. Wasn't it Saudi that him and Undertaker nearly fucking killed each other as well?
Oh God, yeah. Well, I mean, that's it. Like, neither of them should have ever been in a ring, let alone together. Like, they both dropped each other on their heads, basically.
Yeah.
So
you need someone. Yeah. All due respect to Undertaker, he's my favorite wrestler, but they're both at that point now where you need someone to sort of carry them a bit. Yeah, it's fair to say. So yeah, why they were in a match together?
Yeah,
unbelievable.
I think for me, like it's a perfect example. Like with Taker, like Undertaker made the streak, whereas with Goldberg, the streak made Goldberg, because he didn't have anything else. He was nothing. He was a big, bald, muscly guy who, if you
no mic skills,
exactly,
no in-ring skills.
Can't talk, he can't work, so it was just
all
the
he
fact
can
that
do
he
is do a stupid grin and a fucking laugh. That's all he can do, because he can't fucking talk either.
Exactly. So you know what I mean. Like, for me, that's why he's overrated, because he didn't do anything to earn it or deserve it. They just went, this guy's big, let's give him a streak, and then from there he became Goldberg. But
yeah, I think that's the thing. He was a vehicle for it, wasn't he? Like, they could have put that streak on any legitimately well-built wrestler. Like, they just wanted the stature, the physique, didn't they? It didn't really matter who it was. All due respect, Goldberg. Yeah, I don't know. Knowing the perception of Goldberg that I have at the minute as well, because you get all these sort of stories about the fact that he refused to lose to the Fiend and so on like that. It wouldn't surprise me if he insisted on winning the belts. I'm gonna have a streak. I'm not gonna lose the US title to win the big title. It would not surprise me.
Yeah, me neither.
Anyway,
so, fuck you, Goldberg.
Yeah. So, number 4, Carl.
Number 4. So the next one on the list for me is, again, don't come at me, but Jeff Hardy. Now, I like Jeff. I do like Jeff. I've met Jeff, so I like Jeff.
Yeah. I've met him.
Yeah, he doesn't remember that, anything about that day or moment or them years probably. But I met him.
Well, you'll meet him again in the future, and you'll be the only thing he did remember from that day.
I know.
It's you.
Yeah. Like, before, it turns out it was me that caused all his, demons. It was all me. But no, look, I think obviously you can't say that Jeff Hardy's a bad worker, or anything like that. He came up, he was fantastic in the tag division with Matt. Him, the Hardys, the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, TLC and everything, awesome, right?
Yes.
But he was a bit of a standout in WWF, WWE at a time when they didn't have a whole lot of standouts. So, he would do kind of slightly risky stuff. He'd do swantons, like off the top table onto ladders and, stuff like that. And he'd do some high flying stuff, really. But when you think about it, it wasn't that groundbreaking, and he still doesn't do anything groundbreaking today. Like, you look at AEW and you've got fucking super Canadian destroyers off the thing. You've got fucking all this crazy shit, and it's like, okay, Jeff Hardy kind of.
To be honest, all I've seen Jeff Hardy do since he's come back from injury is just get beaten up by an Irishman.
Well, yeah, but look, he's a terrible promo, and I mean terrible promo. I don't know how he ever got over, and why people love him so much, because
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I feel like you're totally right in the sense of, like, if they'd have had more big talent at that time, he probably would never have got the push he did.
Yeah.
And all due respect to the man, I feel Christian's a bit that way as well. Like, they weren't the breakout star of the tag team, and they only got the title runs because they were the only ones there at the time.
Yeah.
So I think you totally hit the nail on the head as to why he got that push in WWE. But he does have a lot of fans. That's a puzzling one. Like, all due respect, because I think I've cited before as well that I much prefer Matt. I think Matt is the infinitely more talented one creatively. So I've never understood that myself.
Yeah, I legitimately don't. I just don't get it. Like, and they're not just like fans, like or casuals. Like, they are die-hard Jeff Hardy fans. Like, they worship the guy. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what is so endearing about him that he can build up that fan base. Do you know what I mean? He's an average in ring worker. Obviously he was a risk taker, which kind of, but I mean, he wasn't a Mick Foley level risk taker. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't even probably even a Shane O'Mac risk taker. But
I know, to be fair to Shane O'Mac, because this is probably the only time I'm going to be fair to him. Yeah, he was willing to take some fucking big bumps, wasn't he? Let's be honest.
well, exactly. So, like, for me, it was just that combination of average in work, like in ring ability with terrible promo, and he's like, everyone loves him, and he's like, oh, he's this fantastic. He should be main eventing, and it's like, you fucking shouldn't. There should be nowhere near the main event.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
yeah.
Like, I honestly can't remember too much memorable things he did main event wise.
Yeah.
In
Me neither.
WWE anyway. I never watched TNA, but yeah, he's massively overrated. Totally agree.
Mm.
So we'll move on. What number are we on now, Carl? I lost track.
Right.
Number 5. We'll move on to number 5, Carl. And I'd be interested to know, because I've never actually got your thoughts on this one. Bobby Lashley. And this is because he came to WWE and he was not, he never got utilized. And then you could argue, all right, WWE didn't use him properly. And this was at the time when Brock Lesnar was a really big thing. So you could go, well, they know how to push a big monster type character. But then he went over to TNA, I believe, and then got a lot of fandom from there. But I'm looking at him now back in WWE, and I'm like, okay, so you've not really got any skills on the mic. I've not seen you have any really decent matches in terms of in-ring ability. And all you are is just forgive me if you're not, but a roided out guy. Do you know what I mean? He's absolutely huge. He's a monster. He's flipping truck tires and stuff. But everything else I see about him, I'm like, I don't get why he's got to push now. I don't get why he was so popular in TNA. And it's not like he's been pushed to the moon. He's not had a world title on him yet in WWE. But when you can see it heading that direction, I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I literally think it is just because of his physique, and I think it's always been that way. I think he's a very muscular, big dude who can't talk or be entertaining to save his life, unfortunately. So, he always finds himself in those kind of spots because where else you put him? Like, it's not super feasible to have him like getting battered in the lower card, stuff like that. So he's a big guy. You've got to use him somewhere towards the top of the card. So it's like, okay, US title scene, stuff like that. But why? Again, because he, I don't actually know his MMA record, if I'm perfectly honest. I know he's done some MMA.
Oh, has he done MMA?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know whether he's ever lost or anything like that. But they haven't even gone into that with him in his gimmick. As you said, you had no idea. So it's like, well, what is he then? Like, who is Bobby Lashley? Because since he's come back, he's been with Lana for no reason. He's with MVP for no reason, really. So, like, I don't know.
And I think this is some of the problem for me, that like he is the kind of person who needs an advocate. He's Brock Lesnar. He's a different variation of Brock Lesnar, and he needs a Paul Heyman. And I don't think MVP's is Paul Heyman. I don't think he's helping him. So I think that's probably some of the issue, that I've never seen him get a decent push with an advocate, because he clearly is the type of guy who needs one. And that's me trying to be fair, because I know you can push a monster character like this, but I just don't get why he's being pushed when, for me, there's nothing really there at the minute. And whether they could change that with the right management, I don't know. But that's why he's made this list, because I've been we've been best part of a year or so now with him on Raw, quite prominently on Raw. Admittedly with stupid angles, but quite prominently on Raw, and I still don't get it. I wouldn't be that hyped if he won the belt. It just wouldn't bother me at all.
No. Same.
So I'm looking at your next one, Carl. We'll go into number 6. I'm surprised, and I'm looking forward to hearing your reasoning.
Okay, so number 6 for me, again, I feel like I'm just going to get a ton of abuse.
Yours is a lot more controversial than mine, I'll be honest.
I've got to
Even
say,
if I did more about Goldberg for about a minute, a few minutes anyway, 10 minutes. I don't know.
So I've got to say, overrated is Shinsuke Nakamura. So look, this guy had so much hype behind him when he was going to be debuting at NXT. You know, he was the indie, well, not even indies, but like the Japan darling. Like he was the standout. He was
King
everybody
of strong
fucking
style.
loved him. Exactly, yeah. Everybody fucking loved him, and they couldn't wait for him to get his big break in WWE. So I was like, okay, let's see who this guy is. I watched his debut in NXT, and I was like, whoa, this song is badass. Well, this
Oh, the
entrance is
song's
super
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
He's dressed like Michael Jackson from Thriller, but let's look past that for a minute.
Yeah. He's not moonwalking, so we can forgive it.
Right. And then I was like, okay, this guy's like a bit kooky. You know, he's a bit different. He's fucking shit. He's awful. Like, his in-ring work is bland, like super bland. He can't talk on the mic. He just does weird stuff with his hands for no reason. I don't get him. I literally have no idea what all this hype is about. And do you know what? I'm quite glad in a sense. Maybe glad is a too harsh a word, but I can completely see why he's not, you know, like a major champion or anything like that. And he's just like being fucking floundering for the last, because like he hasn't stepped up his mic work. He hasn't changed at all or been any different. He's just lazy. I feel like he's just come to WWE for a payday. Whatever he did is like the strong style stuff in Japan clearly got him over and got a lot of people invested in him. Like, are people still invested in him now? Because if that's the case, then what are you guys seeing that I'm not? Because he's just boring. He's crap.
Do you know what? The credit I'll give him is like the good matches he's had surprisingly for me, all the ones I've seen were against AJ, who obviously has dealt with him before and dealt with him in New Japan. And I am slightly curious how limiting WWE are on moves, because I know there are certain moves that AJ can't do anymore due to the risk factor. So I don't know whether that's maybe a factor to it. But I will agree with you that like you don't see him have a lot of good chemistry with someone in the ring. In all fairness, like it might be a bit of a polarizing comment and a polarizing pick from you, Karl. But I see what you're saying. Like, look at some of the stuff he's doing. Like recently, look at him in this tag team, you know, going up against the likes of the New Day and that. Like, what have we seen that has been like spectacular for Shinsuke? Like, we both keep talking about Cesaro because he's the one that we want to see get a push. So yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from in that. Is like, where's that acclaim coming from? Because you don't see a lot of it in WWE.
No,
like, you remember when he debuted on SmackDown? And it was like the entrance itself was like goosebumps. It was like, wow, everyone was singing along. People were so hyped with it. But then his sort of feud with The Miz was shite. Really, match quality wise wasn't great. But and you could argue like, WWE ruined his run. He was big in NXT, but from the sound of what you're saying, like you didn't get him in NXT either. I weren't watching NXT at that point, so I didn't see him there. But
he was infinitely better. Like the goosebumps moments, I got that when I first saw his debut, and it was like this killer entrance and this like guy, and he was like, he had something different about him, and it was like, oh fucking hell, I can really get invested in this guy. I just never got invested in because he just didn't do anything. Like he can't talk. Like when you talk about his moveset and like WWE banning it and stuff, like his movesets are just varying different types of knees to the head or
kicks,
to the body.
Don't forget
like,
kicks.
You know what I mean? And it's like it's just crap. Like I don't get it. And you know, I know there'll be a lot of people calling for me head on this, but yeah, he's overrated massively for me.
Yeah,
massively
you know what?
Overrated.
I know we don't see eye to eye a lot, Karl. But no, I'd agree with you on that. Like when you talk of actual, specifically, I mean, you can't really talk about his mic skills because they're non-existent really. But his actual in-ring ability, yeah, I don't get where people are coming from with that.
I mean, he's won the fucking Royal Rumble as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, you think of the people who won the Royal Rumble, and like, what did he do with it? Fuck all.
That tells you a lot.
Yeah, like my God, like considering the accolades he's had, and it's not like he's, you know, like they did try and push him as well, and I just think that they, you know, similar to me, realised that okay, he's not gonna.
Do you think this is one of them scenarios where it's not been WWE ruining him, it's the fact that they've given the opportunities and they haven't gone with the crowd, so they've reacted to that and gone, right, well, off to the mid card you go.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I just think there's something off, and he comes across as lazy to me. He's not changed his game up since he came across, and he hasn't bothered to try and improve his promo or improve anything. And after a certain amount of time, just doing all this and, you know, kneeing people just doesn't fly, becomes boring, and that's what's happened, in my opinion.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. What are we on now? Number 7.
Yeah, fuck
I
it.
want to go with
Number
7. Number 7. Kevin Nash.
You realise you just said that, and somewhere he's just tore his quad.
There's going to be an angry tweet coming my way. No, all due respect to Kevin Nash, right? He's been involved in some big stuff. Like, he's been involved in the NWO. He's notably a part of the Clique. And he's a big star. Everyone who's into wrestling knows who Kevin Nash is, or Diesel, right? But for me, everything I've seen him in, he's been the guy who's being carried by the faction. Like, in terms of a solo run, they're kind of non-existent, not really that memorable for me. Like, do you remember when Kevin Nash did it? No, I don't. Right? It's always been being part of some sort of clique or group that has helped propel him into the big sort of picture, help make him sort of famous. And I think that's largely down to the fact he was being carried by much better people. Admittedly, I mean, you could argue with I sometimes wonder how the NWO worked, because I'm not that big on Razor Ramon either, as far as mic skills go. But he had his gimmick sort of well set, and he had Hulk Hogan, who everyone fucking loved. So it made sense that they were big. But I don't think any of the parts he's played, he's been big because of Kevin Nash. I think it's been because of the other people involved. And yeah, I've nothing against him, but when you look at him objectively and go, well, his move set in the ring isn't that great. He's not that quick. He's a bit slow paced, really, in terms of his wrestling ability. Yes, who am I to talk if anyone wants to make comments to that effect? But yeah, I don't get it. I don't really get him on the mic. Some of the weakest you can see him is when he was trying to have a feud with CM Punk in his twilight years, and it was even his mic skill was slow. It was like, come on. No wonder the show's 3 fucking hours. Hurry up. But yeah, I don't know. For me, I think he's massively overrated, and I think he's sort of got there because of that. I think he's been carried by a lot of people over the years.
Yeah, for me, I thought he absolutely sucked as Diesel. He was a terrible WWF champion.
Like this team, though.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I just think he was just bad. He was one of the worst champions, I would say, that they had. And then he binned off, obviously, WWF to WCW at the time. And then, obviously, the whole stuff with who's the mystery partner and stuff like that was compelling. And then the NWO was awesome. But then it was just a load of crap after that. Like, he had the whole, like, Scott Hall's a drunk, like, thing. At one point, he had a feud with Big Show. Or Paul White or whatever at one point over the fact that they're both big guys, and he nearly killed him by trying to do a jackknife and not being able to lift him up and just nearly killing him. And then we had like the Outsiders run and stuff like that. But all in all, yeah, he's just like, I don't know. People always talk as well about like he's got an amazing mind for the business and stuff. And I know he did some booker work in WCW as well, but. And I don't particularly know what angles or what stories he was involved in, but by all accounts he was okay. So I suppose you can give him a little bit of dues for that. But as a performer, as a talent,
I think this is the thing. Like, I can't really judge him on the Booker element because I don't know what he was strictly involved in. But yeah, it's credit where credit's due. He's been in the business a long time and obviously knows the business. But yeah, I've never been big on him.
No, same. Okay.
Number 8.
Number 8.
Do you want to divide everyone again, Carl?
To ruffle a few feathers. You've heard this from me quite a few times before, and I don't know whether we will disagree on this, but fucking Otis, man, Jesus Christ, how's he got so many people behind him? Like, I fundamentally hate this character. I despise it. It is just silly, like idiocy. It really, really is. Like, he's boring. It's like, oh yeah, Mandy, my peach. Oh yeah, yeah. Like, that's all he does. And he can do the worm or whatever it is, and it's like, okay,
no,
people have done that before as well.
Caterpillar.
Oh, sorry, yeah, the caterpillar.
Which, to be honest, I think, are they trying to be like a slightly? Is that another fat joke? Without being unfair to it, like, because worms are skinnier than that. I don't know, because the exact same move as Scotty Two Hotties, isn't it? But they call it the caterpillar with him.
Yeah, possibly. But I mean, I just don't get where all the love has come from. I know, Vince is like really, really big on the guy, and but I don't understand him at all. Like he's crap. He's silly. It's boring to me every time he's there. I'm just not a fan of like any of his shtick at all. He's meant to be like an idiot, isn't he? But then I don't know. What are your legitimate thoughts on him? Are you big on him or not?
I think everything you're saying is correct, right? But I think the problem isn't Otis. I think the problem is WWE, because I think every wrestling promotion needs an Otis, right? I think the problem is he should not be in the main event scene. I think they're pushing him way more than they ever should, and I actually think that'll be his downfall, because he'll never. If he gets the WWE Championship or Universal Championship or whatever one he goes for at any point, it's not going to be a memorable run. It's going to be over pretty quick, and then he's going to fall right back down to the mid card. I think the problem is they split him up as a tag team with Tucker way too quick, because they can pretend like they're not split up, but they are, because we've not seen them in tag action in however long, right?
Mm-hmm.
But pushing him as a solo star was a big mistake, and I think he would have worked perfect. I've nothing against Otis as a tag team star or a mid card star or comic relief, because we have them, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, as a character, it pisses me off. I hate the fat jokes. I hate the all that sort of thing. Like, oh, look, the money in the bank suitcase is a lunchbox for him now because he likes food. I hate that shit. But there seems to always be a place for it in wrestling for some reason.
Mm.
So I've no
Do you know
problem with
what's
him
funny,
being
though?
there, but being so like key in the show is just ridiculous. He should not be where the position he is on the card. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Like even stuff like that, I don't even necessarily mind. But like you talk about being comic relief, I don't find him amusing at all. And like the like I think it's more the fact it's like his mic work or like the way he talks. Basically, it just does me head in. Like, oh, tucky, yeah, oh. No, it's just like fuck. It's cringeworthy. I hate it. I really, really hate it. Like to me, at this point, he's like on par with Eugene from a character perspective, because it's not even about him being a big lad anymore. It's now just about like he's fucking thick as pig shit, or he's got like a mental deficiency or something that seems to be pushing, because he's stupid. It's too
This
stupid. It
is
doesn't work for me.
like, this is the thing. I'm not about like being superficial. So I don't want to be the guy who sits here and goes, "Why is Mandy Rose like him?" Right? But look at both sides of it and go, "Well, yeah, he's got the brains and the looks. He's what? But how do they have a conversation?"
Exactly. I
But
mean, to be fair,
yeah,
I don't know whether Mandy Rose is the sharpest knife in the drawer either. Based on her character.
yeah, because obviously we're
So,
talking character. Because in real life, Mandy Rose is
of
with
course. Yeah.
she's with someone else, and she's actually got a boyfriend. This is the bit that kind of not to digress away from Otis. This is the bit that kind of annoys me with WWE as well. They'll acknowledge real life relationships, but then we're meant to suspend disbelief for this fake one they've made up, even though Mandy's on social media referring to a real life relationship. So it's like, well, what do you want us to do? Because like we know Edge is with Beth Phoenix, we know Seth is with Becky. These are all real things. So why are we playing pretend over here? Why have you put them together for a fake relationship? Inevitably, you're going to split up anyway. And again, it's
Exactly.
not just an Otis Mandy thing, because you could argue the same with Bobby Lashley and Lana.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Don't get
definitely.
it.
I just yeah, for me, I honestly don't get the whole kind of hype train behind him, because other than the fact he can do a caterpillar and he's quite agile for a big lad.
Thing is,
Cool.
even that, it's like it's not even done in an impressive way, because for me, Keith Lee is like the one where you're like, fucking hell, he's agile for a big fella. Like more so than Otis. So even that he doesn't get the credit for me, because I'm like, well, I can see it better on another show.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Admittedly,
And
he's
like
bigger
it
than Keith Lee, but obviously it's still a similar comparison.
plus as well, just to make you eat your own words, he does his own version of the Hulk Hogan thing that you hate so much, the fucking like hulking up, where he gets hit in the stomach and he's like,
Yeah, you're
or
right.
whatever he's doing.
Actually,
Do you know
he
what I mean?
starts rubbing his belly for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. It's just I hate it.
Oh.
I hate it so much. Like honestly, I can't stand him.
Do you know,
So there you
I was trying to be fair, but you're
go.
right.
The character as well,
What is
by
the
the way.
point? I'm ruining my own hair here. Like, what is the point?
Pulling your hair out.
Yeah,
But yeah.
you're right. It's totally overrated. I'll be glad when it's done, and that case isn't there. Do you know what? He doesn't even wrestle anymore. Don't be wrong, I don't blame him.
Not...
You know, he's spending all his time with Mandy, fair enough. But has he forgot he's got the Money in the Bank case?
I mean, that in itself is a whole fucking different monstrosity that they've done that with. But anyway.
Okay, so, Karl, I don't know how the world's going to feel about this, but I feel like you're not going to be happy about this. Number 9, Shane McMahon.
Blasphemy.
Don't get me wrong. Shane, for someone who arguably wasn't a wrestler, born into the biz, but wasn't a wrestler, is willing to take some incredible bumps. You know what I mean? He's done some insane stuff. And it was I'm right in saying it was in with Kurt Angle, wasn't it, where the glass didn't break?
Oh, God, yeah.
You know, he's put himself through stuff for the business, and I will always give him credit for that. But the reason he's on my list for being overrated is for certain booking decisions, like the most recent one where they done the tournament for was it Best Wrestler in the World or whatever, some sort of World Cup tournament for wrestlers, and Shane was the one who won it. It's that kind of booking where you're like, I get that it's a bit of nepotism there, you're the boss's son, but just certain ridiculous things like that. I'm like, you're so sort of overrated in that sense. You're overbooked a lot of the time, but he's always going to have a prominent position on the card. So I'm not being unrealistic. You know, he is. You know, he's part of the authority, as it were, even though we don't officially have them anymore. And it's funny that I list him now when we know for a fact he's turning up on Raw to boost their ratings this week. But yeah, for me, I don't know. Like, this is not as like, I'm not as vehement over this as I was the others, because I do understand that he's been involved in some incredible matches and he's put himself through a lot, and I have nothing but credit for that. But I just think, in terms of his prominence in the business, he's probably overrated in that sense, because he's not a wrestler really. He's someone who's willing to do some crazy shit. He's not a wrestler and never will be. He does his little quick boxy punches, you know, and dances around, but he's not his in-ring work's actually quite shocking for someone who's been listed as the best in the world and won a trophy. Go on, Karl, rebuttal, because I know you want to.
Right, I disagree. No. So, look, I think Shane, I definitely see where you're coming from in terms of, you know, that tournament and stuff, and giving himself the moniker of like best in the world and stuff like that. Like, he should never, you know, be doing this kind of thing. To be honest, I don't think he should have been wrestling or doing anything in his kind of more recent run. But for me, he's just like, he's got to be a legend for, you know, the stuff he's done in terms of, like, you know, falling off the highest of things with like Steve Blackman and Big Show, and going like that King of the Ring match with Angle, as you were saying, stuff like that. Yeah. So I feel like
I'll always remember that when the glass didn't break and he just basically landed on his neck. That was just
that's it. Like quite a few times as well. It wasn't even just this like once. So
but to be fair to them, they kept going.
Yeah. So I mean, you can definitely, you know, you've got to give him some props for that. But yeah, I think you know, he can't wrestle or do anything, can he? So he's not.
I feel like Vince had to keep him way the fuck away from Money in the Bank this year, to be honest. He was looking at HQ like, I'm going to jump off that. And they're like, no, Shane. But yeah, I knew you'd probably have some sort of, I don't know, not defense for him, but like your history again goes back a bit further, so like there's probably a lot more prominence in your mind in that sense. But yeah, for me, I'm just like, from a wrestling point of view, like his in-ring work, from what I've seen of his wrestling ability, he's not that great in the ring. He just will take massive risks.
Yeah, definitely. You know, he doesn't really have any ability or any chops in the ring, but you know, it's one of them. It's a tough one, because I think his current kind of best in the world stuff means that he absolutely does belong on this list. But like the old school Shane McMahon, as I fondly remember him, because I've not really seen loads of his newer stuff.
So you're saying, like, if he'd have not been back most recently, being the general manager or commissioner or whatever it was of SmackDown, then you totally argue against him being on this list.
Absolutely, but the fact that he's obviously been back and he's been involved in these things and had his match with Undertaker at WrestleMania and stuff like that, then you can kind of say, well, okay, did he really deserve to have that spot with Undertaker at Mania? Or
I'm just glad he didn't beat Undertaker, or I would have acted. I would have been a lot more angry about this entry on the list.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Karl, do you want to round the list off with number 10?
Yeah, because I've not ruffled any feathers so far.
Get ruffling.
This one will probably do it. Aleister fucking Black.
Aleister fucking Black.
I mean, we spoke about it last week, didn't we? You know,
We
apparently he's fallen from graces a little bit with Vince as well. So, you know, I feel the same as a fucking 80-year-old geriatric.
Yeah,
But yeah,
we
I
just don't
just
get the business. I don't know.
like he's just another one that it's just a character and just a guy that I just don't get. Like he can't talk. He's got no real character about him other than the fact he's a bit moody and he's pretty much just an emo. Like his moveset is just a couple of spinny kicks. And yeah, people just fucking love the guy, and I just don't get it. I don't understand where the love's come from. He's a subpar, like average at best kind of performer.
Yeah, I agree. Like, he seems like the type of person I should be getting behind. But every time he does he has a little sit down in the ring and he does his promos and stuff, I end up sitting there like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because it's just rambling. It's rambling nonsense
You
every
know what I
time.
feel? I feel like he's almost like a CM Punk tribute act. He's got loads of tattoos. He sits down in the ring. He gets the mic and talks, but he does some kicks like Punk does as well, but it just isn't landing for me.
CM emo.
CM emo. But yeah, I don't know. I just not a fan of the guy whatsoever.
No,
and I know obviously
get where you come from. I've not seen anything like. I've not seen any spectacular matches from him. You know, he's fairly new in the business, isn't he? I've not seen any spectacular matches from him as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, he kind of grates on me when he does any sort of promo. I think what's not helped is they've kind of been directionless. All the stuff, like, he doesn't talk much now. He's just kind of in matches. But before that, when he was having promos, he didn't have an opponent. He was just sort of winning a match and then going on like a random little rant. And this is kind of the same problem the Eater of Worlds had. It's like, yeah, but what are you on about, Bray? And I don't know. For me, he could come good. You know, he's got plenty of time there. But I don't know. I'm not a big fan of his mic skills, and I get why you think he's overrated. I do.
Yeah, definitely. And like you've got to look at people like Aleister Black and people like Bobby Lashley, and you've got to say to yourself, well, why isn't fucking Cesaro getting an opportunity then? Because the thing holding Cesaro back is the fact he can't talk. Whereas Aleister Black just fucking rambles shit. He's got like a Dutch accent or whatever anyway. So it's not the accent side of things. Bobby Lashley can't talk, and he's built. Cesaro's built. So you've got to kind of ask yourself, like, why are these guys getting an opportunity?
Yeah, it makes you wonder whether it's like who they like rather than who's the most talented, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So, fuck Aleister Black. He doesn't deserve to be on Raw, in my opinion.
Agreed. Yeah. And I think that is pretty much our list, Cal.
That is the list.
Mm-hmm. So did you agree with our list, guys? Don't care. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's why it's our list.
No, honestly, like we like a bit of participation. What I'm not gonna go on to a rant, but what I tend to get is like someone will go, "No, Goldberg's the best," and then you come back with your reasons as to why you put him on the list, and then you get nothing, no response at all. So if you're gonna put a comment and either list some others, which would be fun, or explain why you think someone shouldn't be on that list, maybe respond as well. That'd be fun.
It's a novel idea, isn't it?
Novel idea.
I've just had a merch idea.
Go on.
T-shirt that just says Rantony, and it's Anthony with the rated R in front of it.
I like it. Right, I'll put that in the merch folder. That's right, we have a merch folder.
Hey guys, Santino Marella here. And if you're like me, you're sitting home during the quarantines. These are the times of quarantine. Well, I discovered a Wrestle Talk podcast called A to the K. It's changed my life. Now I don't want to go back to work. I just want to sit home in the quarantines and listen to Karl and Anthony. They are the best. Together, they're even better. So listen, A to the K. Wrestle Talk podcast. Check it out. Change your life. You'll be thanking me later.